Being an English language teacher, one of the questions that I receive the most from my learners and friends is, how can I improve my language, or what should I do to improve my language? So I just thought of sharing my story, how I improved my language. First of all, I can confidently say that I have improved a lot because I knew how I was long back when it comes to English language. So I think sharing my story may inspire some people. So here it is. I still remember being an English graduate who struggled a lot to communicate in English, and I just got the minimum mark required to pass in English language and literature papers. Even in grammar and phonetics papers, I still remember it was just a pass mark. And after completing my degree, I joined B.Ed course, and that's an interesting story. I'll tell you later about it. I had a friend when I was studying for B.Ed. I had a friend whose name was Fida, and she always found out at least one or two mistakes, grammatical mistakes and spelling mistakes, when I wrote a single sentence. So that was my case when I was about to be an English language teacher. And luckily, I was really fortunate to get an opportunity to work in one of the international schools in Maharashtra right after completing my B.Ed. The officials of the school came all the way from Maharashtra to Calicut to conduct an interview, and somehow I got selected, and straight away I went there to work. And as a beginner, as a fresher, it was way beyond my expectation. The school, the infrastructure, the facilities, the colleagues, the teachers and the students, it was way beyond my expectation. So I was quite excited. At the same time, I was a bit scared as well, to be very honest, because I was not so confident about my language. So I always thought how am I going to communicate with these people? And I got this class. First class was in 6th B. I entered the class with a textbook in my hand and just kept the textbook on the table, and I just started talking to the students. Within a short span of time, I realized certain things. The first thing, the kids, they didn't know, or they don't know my mother tongue, which is Malayalam, and I don't know their language, which is Hindi and Marathi. So the first realization I had was the only communication that's going to happen in this class is in English. So that was my first realization. And the second realization that I had was the students were far better than me when it comes to speaking, because I had prepared some questions to ask them, and the way they answered, it was mind-blowing. And I literally thought, how am I going to survive in this classroom for 40 or 45 minutes with my limited skills in English language? And that's the moment I thought myself that if I want to survive in this school, or if I want to keep my job as an English teacher in this school, I need to do something about my language. Unless and until I work on my language, it's not going to work. So that's the moment I started doing it. The purpose of learning English or practicing English was pretty clear for me. I was so clear about my why part. Why am I learning English language, or why am I practicing English language? And that's the first question that I would like to ask everyone, those who want to, or those who say, I want to improve my language. What's your why? What's your purpose? There is an interesting book written by one of the most appreciated leadership trainer, Simon Sinek, Starting with Why, in which he mentions a lot about the significance of asking yourself this question: why are you doing this? Why do you love the job that you do? Or why do you do that you want to do? So if you're clear about it, definitely the chances are high for you to achieve or to get that job. And so I realized that I should work really hard to improve my language. So I started working on that. And the first thing that I did was whenever I got free period, I would go to the library and I would take a notebook with me, and I would refer the newspapers every day, and I literally wrote down all the phrases, and it was not just words but whole sentences that really attracted me, which I think I could use in some of my writings or speaking. And one thing that we all, one of the mistakes that we all make is we just simply write it down, the things that we see or we read, but we never try to use it. So in order to use those words and phrases that I have learned recently, I use my social media platforms like Facebook and at that time Instagram was not there, so it was Facebook and WhatsApp and all those stuff. Like I simply posted some random stuff just to use the language or just to use the phrases or sentences that I have learned. So that's how I started practicing, and I was really fortunate to have an amazing teacher and a colleague of mine who was an extraordinary teacher, who was actually inspired me to become a different teacher. His name was Mr. Srihari, and every time I see him, he always sat with the dictionary with him, and he was completely immersed in that dictionary, and he would write it down. And whenever I go to his room, he would be watching some talks or some movies or some news. So that's how he was, and I was literally shocked to see such an English teacher, because it was the first time for me to meet such a person. And this guy, whenever he is free or whenever I'm free, he would invite me to his room and we would spend some quality time talking. And he introduced me to English movies, and I was not so fond of English movies before, because it was all fight and this superficial things. But then I thought I started giving importance to the dialogues. So even dramatic movies I started watching. And this guy also introduced me to TED Talks, which later I loved a lot to improve my presentation skills and the language and my accent pronunciation, all this part. These talks really helped me. And one more thing I did was, like, after school time, after 4:30 in the evening, I would go to some random place just to see, because we had nothing to do after school. So every time I go out, I would carry my cell phone and a headset with me, and I started listening. So that's something that we all should work on. We need to improve our listening skill a lot, okay? Only then we will be able to improve our speaking. So that's the part we miss in our school days. We've been learning English for more than 15 to 20 years, but still we are unable to speak just because we don't listen much, okay? So that's one thing I really work really hard on. And also I still remember the podcast. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and one of the podcasts I listened was BBC 6 Minute English, and if you can just Google it, you'll find that BBC 6 Minute English. And I really listened a lot, and whenever I listened, I would just pause it and I would start speaking the way the speaker spoke. And so it was kind of practice session for me, and I was really lucky because I was a teacher, so I got a lot of opportunity to use the language that I listened or read, because the communication in that school was really helpful for me to improve my language. So that's the thing that I did to improve my language. Now, if you really want to improve your language, first of all, ask yourself, why are you doing it? Why do you want to improve your language? Maybe you might be having a lot of pressure from someone, or maybe somebody else might have asked you to do. But I want you to ask yourself this question: why do you really want to do it? Is it for your sake, or is it for someone else's sake? Now be clear on that and try to find some time to that. And also, I would like to mention something, that we actually don't need someone to improve our language. That's a fact, because we have plenty of resources available online just to improve our language. So if you are determined, or if you are really motivated to acquire this language, definitely you will find plenty of resources and platforms where you can improve your language. So keep that passion, keep that determination, and definitely it's going to work. If it worked for me, definitely it's going to work for you too. It's all about the time that you are willing to invest and the effort that you are ready to take. That's all it matters. So keep learning, keep practicing. Have a great day, dears. Thank you very much.